However, the many single-gender private schools of the day and their robust dramatic societies habituated Americans to men playing women and women playing men. Further, there was a popular genre of plays specifically calling for a male character forced against his will to disguise himself as a woman. There was even a classic in this line, a British comedy constantly performed here, especially by amateur groups, Brandon Thomas's Charlie's Aunt, first seen on Broadway in 1893, which proved hardy enough to turn into a hit musical, Frank Loesser's Where's Charlie, 1948, starring Ray Bolger and running for 2 years. No, it isn't quite Drag Queen Planet. Still, that same man pretends to be a woman despite himself premise was the standard plot for America's most prominent, of several, drag actor, or, as they were styled then, female impersonator, Julian Elting. His form was musical comedy, or plays with a handful of songs, a common format around 1900, and his approach to drag delineated the impersonation so deftly in both grooming and behavior that some in the audience took him for a biological woman and were startled when, in his curtain call in drag, he would tear off his wig with a grin. Elting was equally persuasive when playing male characters as well, which is what made him so successful. His shtick, really, was how totally he transformed from man to woman and back and forth thus all evening, because his men were virile and his women tender. In Charlie's Aunt, the joke is that the first female impersonation is deliberately grotesque, yet fools the other characters completely. But Julian Elting emphasized the illusion, even when he sang. Starting in vaudeville, he reached Broadway in 1904 in a British import, Mr. Wicks of Wickham. This was a major production, put on by Edward E. Rice, one of the founding fathers of the American musical, as composer and impresario. In fact, Rice co-wrote and produced the first American show with a full-scale and largely integrated score, Evangeline, 1874. Mr. Wicks also gave the then-unknown Jerome Kern his first substantial credit, for Rice heavily revised the British score and Kern composed about half of the new music. Elting always moved in grand company. He was close with George M. Cohan and other Broadway bigwigs, and A. H. Woods, Elting's manager, the old term for producer, though agent was sometimes part of the job as well, was one of the powers of the theater industry. The original of the brash Handler who calls everyone sweetheart, Woods actually built a playhouse in his star's honor, the Elting 42nd Street Theater, in 1912. Seating 900 with a small orchestra and 2 balconies, the house still stands today, albeit at a different address. The entire 200,000-ton structure was moved down the block and turned into a cineplex. And after his years as a bold-faced stage name, Elting moved to California to go Hollywood, starring in silent films in his usual gender-bending approach and building a Via Capistrano, a mad showplace on Baxter Street in Silver Lake. A cross between Spanish Mission and a fortress, it was 4 stories high and perched on a hill with a cinemascope view of the lake. Here was a very tower of fame, though the surrounding greenery made the structure nearly invisible from the street. So Elting was big, supposedly the highest-paid actor of his generation. Yes, a drag queen. True, his public profile accented cigars, boxing, and such. And his offstage photos revealed a chunky, amiable, middle-class guy, perhaps an insurance broker. Nothing like the slithery, sarcastic performers famed in drag today. Open Daniel Bloom's Great Stars of the American Stage, 1952, devoting 2 pages to each subject with a kind of yearbook précis and stills in and out of costume. And there's Elting rowing a canoe, flanked on either side by beauties of the day in elaborate costume, Belle Epoque, schoolgirl, pour le sport, matronly. And they're all Elting too. The shot was made through double exposure, the CGI of its time.